Subtle skills, big results.
Welcome to the Ninja Selling Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Ninja Selling Podcast. He's Garrett, I'm Matt, and we are, as always, very excited to be with you again. And, you know, it's in December, Garrett. We're talking about launching into the next year, so we have a kind of a fun topic to keep people motivated for themselves and whatnot as you go into 24. But before we talk about that, if you're new to the podcast, if you just found us or somebody recommended you to us, welcome. We're excited that you're here. And if you want to learn more about Ninja, if you're like, hey, what is this Ninja? Because more and more we're hearing people say, hey, yeah, I found this podcast. And then I was like, what is this? Went and read the book, found an installation, got into coaching or whatever. You can learn more about Ninja Selling at ninjaselling.com. Pick up a copy of the book, Ninja Selling by Larry Kendall, who is the founder and architect of Ninja Selling. And join our Facebook community because there's a lot of people out there who've been through Ninja, people who haven't been through Ninja but have read the book, people who are trying to learn more about Ninja. And all you have to do is go on Facebook, search for the Ninja Selling Podcast, and join the fastest growing community of the most amazing people in the entire universe. So welcome.
I love it.
To the podcast. Good morning, Garrett.
Good morning, sir.
I love doing that, by the way. I mean,
that was a good intro.
Just always have fun with that.
Well, I think I threw this topic at you, but we were kind of, we've talked roughly about this in the past. And the way that I was approaching this, I had a coaching call the other day where you could tell somebody's energy of like the year they've had, the income that they have made. And they're not the only one I've ever felt this with, where it's all of a sudden this energy of like, we're starting at zero again. Like we're starting at zero, we're going to build this up and hopefully we'll get to our goal. And one of the things I've always paid attention to around this, Matt, is it's a weird variable that you work with throughout the year of getting to this higher income that you want to have. And it feels way out of touch right when you first start the year. And then we slowly work our way to it. And around mid-year, you kind of start making sounds of, I can see that we're going to hit it, or maybe I see that we're off. And, you know, how are we going to adjust and what are we going to do? We need to pick up the pace a little bit. You know, and sometimes when we see it and it's in plain sight, like we got this, sometimes we lose all of our motivation. And I had this thought a couple of years ago, and I've, you know, played around with a couple of the coaching clients that I work with of like, what if we never started at zero? Like, what if we just took zero off the table? There is no way to start at zero. And we just kind of ran with like a 12-month running total that we just get, you know, you add a new month in, drop a month off. We take our last 12 months and we go, okay, where do we stand right now? Because, you know, if your goal, let's say we're starting at 200,000 to be, and let's say we just had a $200,000 year and our goal is to make $300,000 the next year, can seem a little daunting. We have people that all of a sudden go, oh my gosh, what does that look like? I've never made that much before. Like, how am I going to do this? Well, pretty much if you're running a $200,000 year business, you're running at about $6,600 a month is what you're bringing in income. If you wanted to get to that $300,000 mark, you really need to add on about $8,300 every month to get there. Like that's kind of what this looks like. Hopefully we're staying up with my math. What if you ran this 12-month total and your goal is to slowly pick away on this 12-month total as you work through, add a new month in, drop one off, add a new month in, drop one off. The crazy thing is when you get to the end of the year, if this has been your focus, you should end up at your goal. If you're picking it apart month by month by month by month, you might even do better. This is, again, it's an interesting concept. I've had some people that it really changes the dynamics about how they focus on the year, Matt. And I just want to kick this around with you. And when I brought it up, you got interested.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we talked in the summer about focusing on the pace of your business as we were rolling into Q3, I believe, you know, because people are like, oh gosh, I'm not going to hit my annual goal and everything. And what I like about this idea of like never starting at zero, it's like also this arbitrary demarcation of like, well, you know, this year is done and now we close that out and we have to start a new year. Now, okay.
Who decided on that?
Yeah.
Like who?
Like I get it from an accounting purpose and like taxes, but it's not like, what are you going back to square one of your business? No, not at all. Like we're building on what we've built through this year. And I think this also kind of takes this finish line thing also off the table as well, in terms of like, we're on this journey. Like we're always working to get better. I mean, and there's different varying levels of that. It was interesting. Was it in our session, or I forget what I was listening? Maybe I was listening to something where when people talk about 0 to 10 and you're scaling stuff, right? You're starting at 0, or even looking at the other end of the spectrum, like, well, I'm never at 10 because I'm never finished. It's like, well, then how do you get your 10 better if you're never at a 10? If you never get to a 10, then the next 10 never gets better. You're just always stuck at 9. Right. And so we give ourselves these like weird limits that we play with. And I'm like, ooh, I can't touch that one. And, now I'm already back down to this one. So I like the idea of getting rid of the 0 and saying, let's focus on the trailing 12 months of the business if we're looking at the finances, because that's going to give us the pace. And I think it also keeps the motivation going versus sometimes it could be daunting. If you're going from 200 to 300, as you said, all of a sudden it's like, I got to go to 300,000. And if that first month isn't what you want it to be, then all of a sudden you get to February and you're like, oh gosh, the pressure is just mounting. And then you get to the summer and you're like, heck with that goal. I'm going to go back to 200. Right. And it's like, no, we're like losing sight of what we're trying to do.
And I think the focus here, what gets fun with it is that what you're doing is you're looking out at your months coming up in front of you. And you're sitting there and saying, okay, what do I have lined up for that month? What you don't want to do is, like, let's say put in a whopper month. Let's say you close a $2 million property and that's way outside of your norm. Instead of it being just lumped onto the big goal, what you do is you say, okay, that helped take care of that month. And it may have also offset some months maybe that we had that maybe didn't hit that number. But the goal still stays the same as we move forward, is saying, okay, we got this new month in front of us. Then if your goal is to get to 300,000, is basically, do I have about 24,000 in commissions lined up for that month and for the month after that and the month after that, each one?
Yeah. Regardless if you had 50 the prior month, that doesn't mean we slack off this month. It's like, hey, we still got to hit this 24. It's raising your baseline.
It's raising your baseline. So you just know, if you consistently do this, the big goal that I have out there will just come to be. And this is an interesting thing too, Matt, because sometimes you'll get real close to a goal. Let's say we get to the end of the year. Let's say we're winding up our year right now, and we're like, man, I was off. Wanted to hit 400,000, and I'm off by 50,000. It's like, oh gosh, didn't hit it. Now we're starting back over at 0. It's like, no. What if you could create that 12-month running total, and you could say, in the last 12 months, I hit my 400,000, whatever your goal might be, but you did it in March to March.
Yeah.
I hit my 400,000.
It's awesome.
Celebrate, like, to take it all in. I did that in a 12-month time frame. I hit 400,000 or whatever that goal might be for yourself. And I think we sometimes take away the wins and the celebrations and the achievements that we set for ourselves because it didn't happen at the end of the year. And we didn't get that plaque that we could hang on our wall. Not to say that means everything to everybody, but some people really like the plaques.
They could look nice.
But you didn't get the trophy, and you didn't maybe get acknowledged at the realtor conference, for rookie of the year or whatnot. But you should be able to stop for yourself and be like, look, I set a goal to hit a certain amount. And you know what? I didn't do it from January to January. I did it from March to March, and I am crushing it.
Well, I'm glad you brought this up of like the end of the year kind of, I'll say malaise that sets in of like, oh, I didn't hit my goal. And I have a handful of people that I'm working with now, and y'all know who you are, who are having really good October, November, and Decembers.
Making their year right now.
And they're still looking at the goal and saying, yeah, but I'm not hitting my annual goal. Right. And it's like, no, like, okay, yeah. But back in June, we were looking at this year was going to be absolutely trash. And now you're saving it because you started to take action. You're building up. So let's just carry that momentum into the new year. And all of a sudden it's going to be awesome instead of looking like, and now I'm going all the way back to 0. A lot of people will look at this when they're like, oh, my split reset with my company and I have to start all over. It's like, no. First of all, yes, your split reset and that month of, net commission income is going to be different, but you always still have the same expenditure to your company, depending on how that split works. So whether it's this month or 8 months from now when that split resets, that doesn't matter. Focus on doing the business and keeping your pace alive, because that's what's going to make the difference overall at the end of the day for your average cash flow.
So I was initially thinking the title for this episode would be Never Start at Zero, but I actually like the topic of carry the momentum. And what you just said was a great line, which is, and we're gonna watch it right now. You're welcome, Matt. He's bowing. You can't see him bow if you're not watching. But I think that there are a lot of people right now that have said, I've made this entire year really in the last handful of months that have like all of a sudden this thing has turned around for me. And if you can carry that energy through and keep that going, it's a mindset shift that can really spur a lot of great energy, create a lot of great energy. And the other thing too is when you have these down months, sometimes it's very easy to go like, oh, my year's turned into trash. My year's getting kind of put through the ringer here. And sometimes we get caught in the overall year of what this year is going to be. And there's something about breaking it into smaller chunks that allows you to let that month go. That month's done. Got a brand new month coming up here. We got a brand new month in front of that one. Let's get those months rounded out here and let's figure out what's going. But I like the carry the momentum, man. That was perfect.
I think it helps you also have better insight into what's really working in your business. If you're focused on just the entire year as itself, a lot of stuff happens over the course of a year. We have seasonality, we have life, we have all this stuff that can happen. Whereas if we focus on the month to month, we're like, hey, this month I was doing these activities and look at the results I'm seeing now. Or this month, that was a really tough month for me personally. So it kind of makes sense that this month was maybe a little lower, but now I've made up for it. I think you get better insight into how you're doing. This is one reason why we have everybody do the weekly agenda. So we can go back and look and say, well, what was going on in your life? What were the actions that you were taking in your business? And we can tie that to, okay, this is how we're doing, right? You can almost see, you can have those conversations with clients. And I know you've had these conversations, Garrett, where they're like, I'm doing everything. And like the results just aren't there yet because they're only about, 3 or 4 weeks into the actions. And you're like, oh, this is really exciting. It's like, great. Like, you're doing everything awesome. I know we're not celebrating some great results, but in about 2, 3, 4 weeks, we're going to start to see some stuff happen. And I just saw this with a client yesterday when all of a sudden he's like, I've been so busy. Like I'm writing all these offers now and everything. I'm like, that's really interesting. Well, if we take a look at the past 2 months, you've been really leaning into flow a lot better. And so that kind of makes sense why your warm list has grown and your hot list has grown. And so I like the monthly perspective on that.
I always like it when it's like, do you think this is correlated to all the phone calls I was making 2 months ago? It's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's what it is. And that's the end. You were talking about seasonality, Matt, too. And this is the other part that I watch all the time is sometimes we get stuck into this idea of, but this is the seasons. This is what our business, our area does around this. And I think if you really want to take ownership of it on like a month to month basis, the months that are coming up that you're like, those are typically are some of our more quiet times for our marketplace. You can change that for yourself. It's not that no business happens. It's not that the business just shuts off. It might just drop in numbers a little bit, which all that means is with 45, 60, maybe 90 days before that time frame hits, just say, you know what? Because I know that time frame gets a little quiet out there, I'm just going to up some of my systems during this time over here. I want to see if I can actually change the outcome of these months coming up. You're not looking at it as the year at this point in time. You are literally getting down to those pieces of saying, look, what I do here affects this part over here. I'm constantly lining up these months and filling them up with the amounts that I want to see out of these months, what I want to create. Now you're in the driver's seat. Now you're sitting back and saying, look, I'm not just going like, oh, that's just normally a quiet month. You're going like, forget it being a quiet month. I'm not going to own that it's just a quiet month. Like, what, just kind of go along with the herd of the rest of my office? Well, yeah, it's a little quieter for me also. Like, what if I want to set the pace and be like, look, I actually took control of this 90 days ago, and this isn't a quiet month for me like it is for everybody else in the office. I'm actually rocking and rolling right now because I took ownership of it. Like, this allows you to be on point with every month coming up.
Yeah. Well, and if you focus on the leading indicators too, right? Okay, well, let's say the results do change seasonality, but I bet you also see a change in your leading indicators, the phone calls, the notes, the other things. And that's where you really can take control, right? And do the things that you're just saying is really say, hey, I'm going to lean into this and I'm going to make sure that I hit these numbers out of the park. Phone calls, I'm not going to lower my marketing and my advertising and stuff during these times because people don't want to hear about real estate over the holidays, right? And we're not saying you need to go work all the time. That's not what we're saying. We're not saying, oh gosh.
That's what I was saying. No, okay.
What do you mean you're not out showing homes on Thanksgiving Day? Which there probably will be some people doing that. And gosh, had done that at the time that this airs. And what? Why would you do that? Anyway, but what we are saying is if you have a focus on your business month to month, you can still do all the life things that you want to enjoy without taking your foot off the accelerator of your business so that you have this consistency that happens so that you don't find yourself in a month going, well, I got to make up for it now, because that's the worst.
Well, I've shared this in the past, Matt, and I know in here I'm going to share it again. So everybody be prepared. If you heard this before, just turn the radio off. You'll be fine. Well, if you want to hear it again, here we go. I have coached people in the same office, literally sharing the same office space, like the same cubicle room together. And I started coaching them at separate times. So started with one, and then the other one's like, that seems to be working for you. I'm going to bring him on as a coach also. When I asked them, like, explain your marketplace to me, one of the busy times, one of the quiet times, the first one gave me a scenario throughout the year. Here's how our marketplace works. Here's where most of the business comes in. Here's where the quiet times are at. The next realtor I worked with gave me the completely opposite times, like completely opposite. And they were both explaining to me how the marketplace in their area worked because of weather, because of all these things that they deal with in their market. And I had to sit back and I'm like, well, who's right? Like, are they both right? Are they both wrong? Or is their business all the time? They're just experiencing a different reality from the lead indicators that they put in, and they're not really focusing on their lead indicators. What are how do you handle the holidays? Do you handle it as that's everybody's private time and I don't want to talk to them, I'm going to let them have their family time? Or do you look at it as like, this is the most amazing time of the year because I get to be in flow with absolutely everybody? Do I let people have their summers and they're like, oh, this is the quiet time. Everybody's on vacation. Kids are out of school. I'm just going to let them go do their thing because this is their time. Or do you lean into it and you want to find out about every vacation they're doing and where they're going and why they do it? And do you go there every year? And why do you go there every year? And what does that place mean to you? And like gathering all this great information and building these incredible relationships, that 45, 90-day rule is a real thing. And so when I see people that explain their markets as that offset, it's because they handle the seasons in different ways, where one looks at it as an opportunity, the other one looks at it as a time they need to let their people be and have their quiet time. And I think that all of you, I'm not saying to work all the time. And Matt, I'm happy you brought that up because we're not saying just go full force work all the time at that kind of level. But I do think there's a level of consistency that you can bring in that takes out that roller coaster and will allow you to have a little bit more control of this, looking at the month to month and say, look, am I taking the opportunities or am I walking away during certain times? And how do I want to maybe handle that a little bit differently? Because I think there's a good amount of business happening all the time. We get into our own patterns.
Totally agree with that. I mean, just open your MLS today. There's closings that are taking place this week.
Yep.
Right. Middle of December, there's closings happening. It's like, well, of course, those went under contract 60 days ago. Fine. There's pending contracts that took place and are taking place this week.
Go out 45 to 60 days. Just wait for it. And then I want you to open the MLS and see if there's closings happening. They're going to be like, well, of course it is. It's February. Like we have closings happening. Like, well, those were happening back in December, by the way. That's when those were being put together.
Business happens every day. So be in flow with your people. So
right.
Yeah, I think this is a really good thing. It's like getting your mindset. I mean, we got this whole month. I mean, to get your mindset ready for this next year, or just change your mindset and realize like next year is just another month on the calendar, right? It's just flipping over to January. And I can make a difference today in my business by focusing on the things that are going to allow me to control my actions in a way that grow my business or sustain my business month over month. So Awesome topic, man.
It was an awesome topic.
Awesome topic. I forget what you said you changed the title to, but
We'll figure it out.
You'll
know when it hits. You're going to be like, oh, that's what they were talking about. All right. So to all of you out there, thank you for joining us. If you want to learn more about ninja selling, go to ninjaselling.com. Go check out the book. From there, you can learn about coaching, installations, mastery classes. There's the book study group that you can go and check that out with everybody there. We have an incredible group here at Ninja that brings value in so many different ways, and you will find a path that I think will light you up around Ninja and find the way that you can help bring this into your business and into your life. Till then, everybody have an amazing day. Have an incredible week. We'll be back with you soon, and thanks for tuning in today. Have a great one. Matt, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Garrett. Appreciate it.
If you enjoyed today's episode and would like more, visit us at theninjasellingpodcast.com.
There you will also find links for more information about ninja selling and coaching. Have an incredible day.